In this segment, we're going to cover the reports commonly used by data managers. We have the attendance sign-in sheet report, the units of service activity, the POS monthly, the activity client, and then on the program page, there's a monthly report. And then the most important report would be the payment report or the POS PR2 report that is a required deliverable on reimbursements. Notice that these are sectioned in the areas where they are found in the system. The payment report will be found on the BI module. I'll show you how to navigate to that report and how to run it and read it in a moment. The reports menu section in delivery will allow you to choose any of those reports. And then the program page report or the monthly report is found on the program page. So then let's take a look at some of these reports. The payment report looks like this. It gives you your program name, the report date range that it was run for, in $2 amounts. Your finance manager will request reimbursement using the smaller of those two numbers. And what you'll find that it does is it shows each student that attendance has been recorded for within the month and whether or not they met a threshold days based on the number of open days in the closed dates module. I'm going to come back and talk about this in more detail shortly. Let me run through some of the other reports first. The attendance report or attendance sign-in report is necessary on the first day of your services for after school, and you can run it once and then it should show each participant that has an active or open episode for the current fiscal year. If you've created a demographic page for a student who is not on the report, that means they do not have an open episode date for the month you're running the report in. Also, you could have a scenario where you have the student existed from, say, last year, but you didn't go in and open that student for this year. You didn't give them a new episode. That, too, would be a reason why a student would not be shown here. Now, then, we'll go over how to run this report, but once you have it, you basically download it as a PDF and make copies on your copy machine, and you're good to go with that version of the report until a new student comes in and you add them to the roster, or an old student that was previously closed returns and you give that student a new episode date. Then you would do that and then generate the report again, print it, and start using that version. This report would be collected for the entire month and then scanned as one PDF file. So you would want to have all the days for the entire month in order, with the first day of the month or the first day of service for the month on top and the last day of service on the bottom. And you'd scan that and make one PDF, and that's attached to your reimbursement. We have another video that covers that on the financial side. If you have any questions on how to do this report, it's critical. Get with the SAMUS admin team or the SAMUS help desk, and we'll help you with this. How do you run it? You would find it from reports, and then you would do view reports, attendance sign in, choose your program name, and choose your involvement as all involvements. And that's all you need. It will give you all the participants that are currently active on the program page that you chose. In just a second, we'll have this report. There it is. And I could download it as a PDF. That is the attendance sign-in sheet. It is a deliverable that's required. Now, there are some other reports. There's a units of service activity report. This is a nice report for quality control. Do not use this report for your reimbursements if you're an after-school program. For reimbursements, you will use that report, the PR2 report. But this report will tell you how many units have been entered and what your unit of service value is, regardless of whether or not threshold days were met. So it's a nice QC report, and then we have a video that shows how to run it. Another report you should be aware of is the monthly detail report. And as you can see, it will show a date or a column for each date of the month, and then it will show whether or not any particular student had units recorded for that day. And you get a sum total at the bottom. If you've got 40 kids and you know they were all present for a particular date, you should have a 40 at the bottom. And in the last row, the last column, you'll have a total for the whole month. This is a very good report to uh, uh, conduct quality control. Perhaps you delegate attendance to another employee. You can run this report and see what's being entered and when. Again, we have another video that shows how to run the report. We also have the activity client report, a UOS activity. I like this report. It's a little bit like the one we just looked at. It's run for the month, but it gives you a different way of looking at or visualizing each participant and the number of units they have for a particular month and a particular service. And then the monthly report may or may not be something that you're required to do by contract. Your contract manager can tell you that. If you are required to do it, you run it for a fiscal period and for a month. 8 would be August, 9 would be September. How do you get to this thing? Well, you go to your program page. So you'd start by navigating here from your landing page, and then you would choose monthly report from the program details, and then that could be run by clicking add new entry. Basically what you're doing is choosing a fiscal year and a month, and then answering the questions as you see them here. Again, not everyone has to do that, so that depends on your contract. Let's go back quickly to what I consider to be the most critical report, because this is how you get paid. Let's look at this in a little more detail. The thing to remember here is before you run this report, you should have completed attendance for the entire month, and you should have your close dates module reflecting the correct open and close days. So your weekends would be closed if you don't provide services on the weekend on the close dates module. Your holidays will be closed and so forth. You would choose when you run this report, choose the right date range, first day of the month, last day of the month. Even if you don't have services on the last day of the month, running it this way will suffice. Now, it tells you to, when the reimbursement is being requested, to use the lesser of the two amounts. So how are these amounts calculated? Down here we see a row for each participant that I have active and open and attendance recorded for. Over here, days attended. The close dates module for the month of July on this test report, which was a summer camp report program, had 20 open days. And then the threshold is 80% of the number of open days. In this case, 16 is 80% of 20. Sometimes that will be a rounded number for threshold, always rounds up. And then it tells you for each student, did that student meet the threshold, yes or no? 20 days were recorded for attendance. They get paid for 20 days. I don't have an example of someone that met the threshold, but they were there less than the open days, but I can describe it, and it would be, let's say, for example, you would have a 19 right there. They attended 19 days. That met the threshold because the threshold is 16. Well, 19 would be greater than 16, so the threshold was met, and yet they would get paid as if they were there for 20 days. So that's how the threshold works. Now, it would do that, and here we have students that did not meet the threshold, and it simply calculates the units of service value times the number of days attended, and you get paid for that if they don't meet the threshold. So it's a nice way to help your cash flow. The calculated amount that you see here is simply this column summed up, and that will be the calculated amount. In most instances, your calculated amount will be what you use. It'll be less than your maximum amount. How does it calculate the maximum amount? It's 100% of contracted seats, and I see my contracted seats are 100 in this case, times 100% of open days, that would be 20 days, times the units of service dollar amount, $22.44, times all of that multiplied by 1.1. That comes out to $49,368 in this test case example. In real life, it might be a little bit closer to your calculated value. It's not intuitive, but how would you find a scenario where your maximum amount would be less than your calculated amount? Well, that could happen if you over-enroll. You may be contracted to provide services to 100 students, but you're really recording services for, let's say, 120. In that case, you could have a scenario where the calculated amount for that many students exceeds the maximum amount. Well, notice what it says down here. You cannot request more than 10% above your maximum possible contracted amount. Keep in mind you cannot go over your annual contracted amount. And this report's not going to keep track of what you did last month. It's simply a month by month report. So you could have a scenario where your calculated amount is greater than your maximum amount. In that case, you would choose the maximum amount, or your finance manager would, when they do the reimbursement. How does this report, how do you run it? Let me show you how to get to the BI tool. So if I'm at my landing page, I would go to BI. And by the way, a data or finance manager should be able to run this report. I would go to reports, view reports, and choose the PUOS payment report version 2.1 is our current version. Start date, first day of the month, last day of the month. I could type it in if I want to. Choose my fiscal year, my test case, I'm doing summer camp, and then my program name. If you're unsure about your fiscal year, you can ask us. It is on your program page. And for this year, it's going to be 21-22 August. I'm sorry, 22-23 August to July. But I'm running for summer camp test or the report. And this will pop up in just a minute. And oh, I ran it wrong. And it's good that I showed you how to deal with it if you run it wrong. You go back, what did I do wrong? I chose, let's see, July. I chose the wrong month. July. Fiscal year 2022 summer camp. I chose the wrong summer, the wrong program. There we go. So you can identify that it's wrong when it runs and there's nothing on it. There we go. Got the right program and I got the right data. That's how you run it. These two reports, the PUS payment report version 2.1 currently, and the attendance sign-in sheet report are your required reports for deliverables on reimbursements for the 22-23 school year. If you have any questions, you can get with us at samus@coj.net.